Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Garber.
Here.
Commissioner Howard.
Here.
Commissioner Emery.
Here.
And Chairman Broder.
Here. Very good. At this point, I'd be looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Support. I've got a motion to support. Any changes to the agenda? Questions? All right, all in favor of approving tonight's agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. We'll now be looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the August 14th, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting. So moved.
Support.
I have a motion with support. Discussion on the minutes. All in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes are approved. At this point, we move on to approval of the bills. Commissioner Garber, please.
Thank you. I move that we approve the invoice edit reports dated 8/2, 8/16, 8/23, 8/30, 9/5, and 9/6 in the amount of $4,837,403.09 and authorize Treasury to draw the warrants for that amount.
Support. I have a motion with support. Any discussions or questions on the bills? I'll need a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Holzhausen is excused. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Garber.
Yes.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Commissioner Webster.
Yes.
And Chairman Broder.
Yes. All right, the bills are approved. At this time, we have our first opportunity for the public to address this board. I have only one slip up here. Let's see, what is this name? Doug, Corwin.
Also known as your public defender. I want to tell the board, and especially Brian, because I picked on him a little bit about the carpet choice, but the district court looks awesome. I really appreciate the upgrades. It looks beautiful downstairs where our department is. I have not went up to the second floor, but first floor, and mine look great. So I just want to say thank you. Looks good.
Thank you. Okay, all done.
There's a few touch-ups they need to do here and there, but for the most part, the project is complete.
All right, seeing no one else, move on to committee reports. Commissioner Emery, could we start with you tonight?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Howard?
Yeah, so Parks, we met, we voted to put some automatic timers on the bathroom door locks so that they open and close on time. So that'll be easier, it'll save some time of someone going around manually unlocking the doors and locking them at
Is
night.
that solar powered or?
Probably just battery powered,
Okay,
but they should last a significant amount of time.
good.
So that, we picked the color for the roof on the Kirby School building. It's gonna be like a dark green to match the other parks buildings. Everyone agreed on that. And then, that should be getting done this month here. We have a call in with that contractor to get that roof put on. Planning Commission, we had one approval for a, custom meat processor up on M52 at the very north end of the county. That was good to see. So hopefully they get working on that soon. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Webster.
I don't have anything except a question about when will the opioid committee meeting, when will we meet again? And have we discussed that or have any plan for that? I mean, whichever spot we're looking to
No.
talk about it, yeah.
We haven't discussed our
Okay.
date for our next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner Johnson.
Went pretty quiet for me this month.
Commissioner Garber.
Not much. I would just say, kind of like I do every month, that we just continue to do really good work in our Veterans Affairs office. I don't know how, but people just continue, the numbers just keep going up. We're serving hundreds of people, veterans that have not come in to the office before. It's the accessibility, the visibility, it's really a good thing. We did good work, so.
As far as you know, have they changed anything as far as outreach, or is this all to do with just the visibility of the building and maybe word of mouth?
That's all I can figure. I don't think anything, as far as outreach is any different. I think they've always really made that a priority, but I don't know. I mean, really, it was bad. Those stairs, there's nowhere to park. You don't even know. There's no sign. You don't know the veterans office is there.
I recall back before they moved, you would mention it once or twice to me.
But yeah, so I think we all as a team here, did good work, so.
All right. Thank you. All right, at this time, let's move on to committee motions and reports. Commissioner Garber, back to you.
All right, I move that we approve the proposal from Fleece and Vanderbrink for support with the Brownfield Redevelopment Board and Brownfield redevelopment plans.
Support.
Motion with support. Dr. Boggs, did you want to just summarize that again?
Very briefly, so Samantha Marius, who works for Fleece and Vandenberg, works with the Brownfield Redevelopment Board and also with the Land Bank Board. She has switched firms from AKT Peerless to Fleece and Vandenberg, and we'd like to continue working with her. It's a time and materials contract for professional services. She provides all the tax capture plans and a variety of her, or the bulk of her billable hours are recaptured in those plans, and they're paid for from that.
All right. Any further questions?
And the rate remains the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of related, but unrelated. I noticed the sign out at the hotel project, and I love that there are signs on the projects. I was in another community where they were doing that, and I think it just, because nobody knows what a land bank is or what a brownfield is, but when they see those signs, it really is helps people to understand where their tax dollars are working. So it looks great.
And that was an influx of federal money that came back to the state, and the state then provided it to the local land banks. And it wasn't until the last 2 years that we even had a land bank, which is how we've become eligible for that money. And without a seat at the table, our tax dollars were going out and not returning to us. And so this is a nice way for us to get the money back that we have already donated, so to speak, and come back to work to improve our community, such as tearing down the Welcome Inn, Simplicity in Durand. There's one in
Golden Spike.
what's happening, the Golden Spike, a couple other ones that are still yet to come. So.
As well as some more development possibilities.
Correct.
And I can tell you, my son and I carried that sign from the Arby's parking lot over where it is, and it's a lot heavier than it looks.
Well, thank you for doing it. It looks
Nice work.
fantastic.
That's what young people are
Both the
supposed
property
to do.
and the sign look fantastic.
Oh, everybody I talked to in the community is happy about that being gone. So it's a really good one, I think. Anyway, other further comments or questions? If not, a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner, hang on, sorry. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes,
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
and Chairman Broder. Oh,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen is excused. I'm supposed to acknowledge it every time. It's the rules.
Slacker.
All right, I move that we approve the minutes of the September 9th, 2024 Finance and Administration Committee meeting.
Excuse me. Motion with support. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And those minutes are approved. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Webster, please.
Item A, I move to approve the replacement of one correctional deputy not to exceed step 3.
Support.
Motion with support. Your standard stuff.
We had one correctional deputy leave for employment elsewhere, and this is a replacement, and it's a budget position.
Very good. Questions, anyone? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
yes,
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen is excused, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
and Chairman Broder.
Yes.
Item B, I move to accept the grant award from Michigan Department of Corrections in the amount of $80,000 for the Community Corrections Advisory Board as presented.
support,
Motion with support. Any comment on that?
Yes. Yes, I could.
Please.
So we talked about it a little bit in the committee meeting. So this is kind of a fact-finding opportunity for the judge or magistrate, I guess, to have a better picture before setting bail, right?
That's the first part of it. And then the second part is they will monitor them while they're out on bail.
So probation officers don't do that
Probation officers, that happens after sentencing.
after sentencing. So from the time they are arraigned and bail is set, then to,
Adjudication, sentencing.
and that is gonna kind of mirror what probation officers do? Is
It will be
that-
very similar, and if they adhere to all their guidelines, they maybe will get some amount of credit for it.
Because I feel like if you've been arrested and committed a crime, I feel like this is kind of, well, okay, so I had a bad childhood, or I don't have housing. I don't know. It feels a little like a social program, sort of, to me.
It's gonna become required, and at this point, we have some funding from the state to assist us with it. And before it becomes something that we have to pay for out of the general fund. So I think this is a good way to start it before it becomes a requirement.
Commissioner, I would also add to that, to what you're saying, that there are elements of this program that can help direct additional oversight resources towards people who are out on pretrial release who probably need to be monitored more closely for the public safety. So there's both sides. There's another side, I guess, to this as well, that this would direct resources towards people who right now might not be identified for additional GPS tracking, monitoring, things like that on pretrial release, who might, in the public's interest and in the safety, for the safety of the public, maybe they do need to be monitored.
That's a valid point. At that, I guess I'd just put them in jail then. If
Well,
you know.
and I think that
Yeah,
just to your
it's a
point-
continuum. It's like a spectrum,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
To your point, I think it is important to note that there are certain things that you don't, obviously there are things you don't qualify to be out on bail for, but there are certain criteria here that if you are considered an extreme risk to the community, you wouldn't be in this program anyway. But there is additional monitoring, which does increase community safety, and is one of the objectives of the Michigan Department of Corrections in creating. You have to track your public safety. So that would be like somebody who offends, who reoffends in some way while they are in that period between arraignment and adjudication, sentencing or trial, whatever happens there. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. That if somebody reoffends, that's a public safety concern. And that's one of the things MDOC wants to reduce by this pretrial services. Because people often do reoffend in that period when they're out on probation. So there's a couple things that we're monitoring, and one of them is public safety. It's to reduce the number of people who reoffend in that period between their arraignment and their sentencing.
They don't sound like very smart people if they're going to reoffend.
It happens all the time,
It's like,
and I think
But they
all of us
exist.
know people with whom that has happened, so, yeah.
Marlon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did attend most of the Community Corrections Advisory Board meetings, and I seem to recall there also is part of pretrial services to provide more information to the judge and or magistrate in dealing with eventual possible sentencing or maybe decisions on whether to revoke bails and a number of different things. The judges seem to be in favor of it
They are.
for it being a tool for them as well.
Yes.
That's a good point. So they will see this, something from the pretrial services individual at least twice. They'll see something when they're coming up for arraignment on a felony. So they'll see something related to where they live. Do they have employment? Are they a member of the community? What are they, different things of that nature. And then at the end, a report will also be given to the sentencing judge that says how they did while they were on pretrial services in between the time they were arraigned and the time they were sentenced. Almost like a probation report, but it's not probation because they haven't been sentenced yet.
And, I mean, I'll go to the social program side of this and say, if you take somebody away out of their family, they've committed an offense, they're gonna go to jail, taxpayers are paying for them while they're in jail, they lose their job because they're in jail, and now their family, of has to go get assistance because the breadwinner of the house is in jail. And part of this is to try to create stability for families so that you can keep a person on tether, going to work, still providing for their family, rather than being in jail and being a double strike against taxpayers. Because we are paying for them to be in jail, and we're paying for their family's sustenance while they're there.
I mean, in that case, if they're a breadwinner, I might feel a little more lenient. I wonder how often that's the case.
It's pretty often, and that's what pretrial services helps to determine. If this is the breadwinner, and if he or she is not high risk, is there a way we can monitor them in the community with this pretrial services so that we can make sure the community is safe and this person can still stay productive and not be tapping taxpayer dollars?
Well, they're still tapping taxpayer dollars because this grant is taxpayer dollars.
It is,
It might
it's
just
true.
be less taxpayer
Right,
dollars.
Right,
It's not our local general fund that funds the jail dollars.
right.
And if I may make a point, I think it's, to some people subtle, but I think it's an important one. When you mention parole and so on, these are people that have been convicted. People in this have not yet been convicted, so when you say they committed a crime, no, they've been accused of a crime.
Mhm.
And
And we're innocent.
And if you ask our public defender over there, he will tell you that not everyone accused of a crime will be convicted. Is that correct? And so somebody who is eventually, judged not guilty or something, you ruin their lives less perhaps with pretrial services and this sort of thing by allowing them back out in the community. At least I see that as the theory.
Don't most people get bail if it's not a big crime?
There is a presumption in favor of being released prior to trial, yes. And I guess my other point would be that these people are in the community, a lot of them are in the community right now under the current system, but they're not being monitored.
Okay.
Right, so that's kind of there are people in jail right now who have been remanded to jail with no bond or no bail. That is very rare. There's a lot of people in jail who have a high cash bail amount, and that's still going to be set by the judge. The amount of cash bail will still be set by the judge, and that's a little bit different. They can't make bail because they can't afford it. But then there's a lot of people who have personal recognizance bond, even in felony cases, that are in the community, but as of right now, they're not necessarily in a structured environment with any testing, check-ins, GPS monitoring, anything like that. So it's really kind of a gap potentially in the system right now that those people are falling into. So I can see both. I guess what I'm saying is I see many different sides to this issue, but I think that's a good point that they're already out there in the community currently, but in a non-structured environment.
So we can require people to do this pre-trial services, even though, like Greg said, they're just accused. They're not.
Sure, they'll be ordered. So the court has the power and the jurisdiction to have attached terms to someone's pre-trial release. So this is essentially how that's conducted. Is these are terms, that conditions that get attached to, hey, you need to, because the court needs to determine, is the public safe if this person's on bond, and is this person going to appear for trial, right? Those are the two main factors the court's looking at. And to accomplish those goals, they can attach conditions. And this program, when it gets up and running, would be a more fuller expression of those conditions and setting them up in a structured way so that there is more, perhaps, accountability for these people.
Okay, thank
So
you.
they're out on bond, but they're not off the book for whatever they're alleged to have done. But I think Commissioner Garber raises a good point, but if we go back to Attorney Morris's continuum, where on that continuum do you say, well, the rest of the community is too great to let them out, or it's less enough that we can let them free? It's my understanding that this program would help the judge, first of all, because he's having to make these decisions, and sometimes it may just be a shot in the dark on his point. But if this I take it this is gonna be more data and information on that specific individual that would be a reassurance.
I think that's a good point, Commissioner, and I think the other point that comes out of that is that ultimately these decisions are still being made by the same people who are making them and protecting our community right now. That's our magistrates, our district court judge, and our circuit court judge, right? So the ultimate decision about where to set somebody on this continuum remains in the hands of the elected judges and their appointed magistrates in this county. This is information that flows into them, right? So they still have the ability to do what they need to do to protect our community and to assure appearance at trial.
Anything more? That was a good discussion. Thank you, everyone. All right, a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes,
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen is excused, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
No.
and Chairman Broder.
Yes.
Item C, I move to approve the minutes of the September 10, 2024 Public Safety and Courts Committee.
Support.
Got a motion with support. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Thank you, Commissioner Webster. Commissioner Garber, back to you.
All right, I'm gonna try this one again. I move that we approve the agreement between Mr. Agbanyana and the Shiawassee County Health Department for a period of 10/1/24 through 9/30/25 and authorize the board chair to execute that contract.
Support.
Got a motion with support. Any discussion on that one? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Emery,
yes,
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen is excused, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the contract renewal with the Shiawassee Regional Education Service District for hearing and vision screening for an amount not to exceed $15,747 and authorize the board chair to execute that contract.
Support.
Motion with support. Any discussion?
Just so you're aware, this is the hearing and vision test that happens to school-aged children all across the county.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen is excused, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
yes,
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the contract renewal with Shiawassee Health and Wellness for social work services as part of the Perry Schools Child and Adolescent Health Program in an amount not to exceed $86,258 and authorize the board chair to execute that contract.
or,
Motion with support. Any discussion? Anyone?
So we don't have enough social workers, so we contract with Shiawassee Health and Wellness for those social workers, but then we place them in the schools. It's the same for this one and the previous one, and it's grant funded from the state.
I mean, Larry seems to feel very positive about the impact that's having in the schools, so.
And it's grant funded.
It's taxpayer funded, right?
It doesn't come out of our general fund.
Well, it comes out of our pockets in some way or another,
It does in some way or other.
unless it comes from the grant money tree. That's all I know.
and the health board supports this.
They do. Anything else? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Holzhausen is excused, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes,
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
and Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the contract renewal with Shiawassee Health and Wellness for social work services as part of the Duran School Wellness Program in an amount not to exceed $86,258 and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
support,
Motion with support. Discussion.
Same thing.
Ditto.
Ditto.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
yes,
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen is excused, and Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the contract renewal with Convenient Urgent Care for Sexually Transmitted Infection Services and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
Motion with support. Any further discussion?
It's a referral service so that we can prescribe them treatment.
So recall we do this every year.
Correct.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Aye.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen excused, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the contract with PMC for temporary nursing services and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
We have a motion with support. Any further discussion on that one?
We have a nurse who's going out on maternity leave, and because it's a specialized license, we need a temp agency that has that license to fill in. So we can continue to provide the service.
Very good. Anyone else? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Howard,
Aye.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen excused, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
and Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the September 10th, 2024 Health and Human Services Committee meeting.
Support.
A motion with support. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Thank you very much. At this point, big comments from myself. I don't have much. Usually everyone else covers it for me. I would say, as far as interest, some talk was made of our land bank. We're doing great stuff. I think the Dicler building is completely down now. Obviously, you've all seen the welcome in. We've got some other possible projects in the works, which would be great. Community mental health is you're probably going to hear a lot more about community mental health in the next 2 years than you expect. The state is not properly funding it. We have a system with community mental health where we are legally required to provide certain services, and the state is technically legally obliged to provide us the funds. They're not providing us the funds. All the local CMHs and the PIHPs at the middle level are eating into their fund balances and will probably all be gone by the end of next year. So you may hear a lot about that and what's going on, as well as something called conflict free, where they are going to require us to spin off certain services that we now provide, to provide them privately. But the problem is there is no one in a local area to actually provide those services. So, as is often typical of the federal government, they don't care, just do it. So you might hear a lot about that in the coming years. We're doing our very best to keep things together. That's all I have. Dr. Boggs?
Continuing on that, Chairman Broder and Commissioner Garber and myself have been working on a potential grant that might be able to help community health and wellness with a couple of items that they're going through as part of conflict free. You may have noticed that the camera up here is still not moving. The part has been ordered. It should be here on Monday for it to start working. So right now it's audio only for the live streaming, but we'll be correcting that first part of next week when it arrives. And today I sent out the budget memo for next year's budget to the department heads. As we've discussed, the revenues will likely remain pretty flat. So what that means is that there won't be a lot of growth in things throughout the county. Projects will remain about the same. Budgets will remain the same for departments with adjustments based on step and increases that are part of their movement through the step and ladder scale that we have. And that is all.
Thank you. All right, now we have our second opportunity for the public to address this board. Is there anyone who would like to do so?
If I'm able.
Please come up and identify yourself.
Sir, I'm Jessica Mauer. I know some of you may not know me. I'm here as part of the public and a resident of Shiawassee County and a concerned and curious veteran. So I had the opportunity to watch the last commissioners meeting, and you mentioned the numbers at the Veterans Affairs Office. I was just curious as far as what those numbers are. You said in the hundreds, but compared to what? Last year's numbers, 5 years ago, numbers compared to other counties. And then also, I was just wondering, the programs and services that are offered to our veterans here in Shiawassee County.
You can always call over there, talk to the director, Mike Reeves. He might be able to supply you with that information. I'm not sure exactly what he has on hand, but he might be able to supply you with that.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
But thank you for reminding me, because I should have mentioned that I called Mike Reeves just last week about the widow of a, you can, you don't understand, the widow of a, we have an 87-year-old widow of a veteran who was over at Fiddler's Green there, closing their doors and turning off their lights in about a week. She had nowhere to go, and within days, Mike had made arrangement, called an emergency board meeting, funded help for this lady, and I called him today, and she's already in a place called Genesee Gardens. So he did a really good job. He stepped up because there wasn't anyone else. It was to a point there were a few people involved in this who were saying, maybe I can take her into my home. So he did a good job, and I want to recognize him.
Greg, if I
Yes,
could
please.
real quick, I would just like to give 2 statistics. So for July, we had 499 veterans that were served. 75 of those were walk-ins, meaning no appointment, they just walked in. In June, we had 372, so July was a big month. We don't keep statistics that I'm aware of, like comparing to other counties, but we keep statistics each month of the veterans that come in, what type of veteran they are, what services they're looking for in broad categories, you know, the housing repairs, such and such, but 499, that's a big number. So I just wanted to throw that out
Thank you.
there. Yep.
Anybody have other comments before we adjourn? If not, we are adjourned.
Jessica, would you mind putting it out individually?
Yes, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to